Hot Springs Village Inside Out is a closer look at the greatness of Hot Springs Village, Arkansas and the surrounding areas. People, places, experiences. Ground was broken on February the 15th, 1970, and Hot Springs Village was officially opened on June the 1st, 1970 by John A. Cooper Sr., a developer. The village is North America's largest gated community consisting of 26,000 acres. It's also the largest property owners association operated community with over 32,000 property owners. Hot Springs Village, Arkansas is one of the most beautiful places on the earth. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and my co-host Dennis Simpson as we engage in weekly conversations to explore Hot Springs Village Inside Out. Today's show is brought to you by Central Arkansas's favorite radio station, KVRE. Find them on the dial at 92.9 FM. Stream them live at kvre.com. Our special guest today is Tom Heffer, PGA member and director of golf for the Hot Springs Village POA. Joining Tom are his teammates, Mike Socha, PGA member and assistant director of golf, and Matt Lewarn, golf sales director. Together, they are the three amigos of golf inside Hot Springs Village, Arkansas.
Well, for the first time ever, it appears, as best I understand it, we have the entire golf department on our show at once. Who would have known? Who would have known? Well, obviously not the entire golf department. It's great to have Tom, Matt, Mike. It's wonderful to have everybody here today. And I tell you what, we're going to get right into it. What is a stay and play package? How do I come in from the outside? And I've never been to the village. I want to try playing golf. Matt, what would I do?
Well, basically, Dennis, they would call our phone number, our tee times, and they would get in touch with us, or they would email us, and they would just say, "Hey, we're looking to come and play some golf, stay in the village or locally, be it Hot Springs or whatever." And we would set it up via, setting up the tee times. We collect in advance, and since we do not have housing as far as a POA, we give them the option of phone numbers for hotels in downtown Hot Springs. We would much rather have them stay here in the village, which probably 98% do, because they're here to play golf,
Now, do they stay through local realty companies, or how do they do that?
They do. Realty companies, VRBOs, Airbnbs. We have Village Villas, which is kind of a management company that's got a lot of homes within their inventory. And we help them get that dialed in. And housing is the hardest part, as I always say. Golf's easy. With the 8 golf courses that we handle, the 9th being Diamante, there's plenty of golf, plenty of tee times available. Of course, COVID and what we've seen, they're filling up fast. And, we start booking stay and play packages late December, early January for the year. And right now we're rocking and rolling. It's been quite busy. So
Tom, it only takes a pandemic to turn around the future of golf. Is that all it takes? I'm just confused here. Tom's the director, of course.
Well, it seems like people thought golf was a lot safer than any other thing they can do during the pandemic. So they all came out. We had pickleball actually shut down here in the village during the beginning of the pandemic. And the pickleball players didn't like that very much. So they were really watching golf and taking pictures. And I was getting all these pictures of people being too close together and things like that. And we watched it. We got it going. We made it safe, sanitizing, doing all our things, keeping people away, single cart riders, which people don't understand how much abuse our carts took. Everybody took their own cart. We kept turning carts over and over and going through the carts, and they aged pretty much a year in 6 months real quick. Also, a funny story was I went down this side road by accident here in the village by Granada, and during this, when pickleball was closed, I turned down the street. Next thing I know, I see about 30 cars and 2 handmade pickleball courts drawn on the cul-de-sac, and they're all playing pickleball, and they all scattered when I came down. I thought it was great. I just thought people were very imaginative how to get through this pandemic, including golf.
So there is not a 12-step for pickleball. Is that what I hear, or is there is?
Not that I know of. So they're back playing, which is great. They really found a way to be safe and do this. And golf just never skipped a beat. We never shut down one day, not one day. And it seemed to get busier by the day.
Wow. Mike, what would you say is your greatest challenge working at the golf department?
Right now, our greatest challenge is just keeping our staff with us. I mean, we're doing so much more with so many less people, and we really require a lot out of them. And, we're always looking for good people, and we have a continuous listing on our website for employment. That's really our biggest challenge. We get some good employees. We have some great volunteers that help us get around the golf course and keep it at a 4-hour pace. And, we're the talk of the country by doing that.
Really? Well, and Tom, I've always loved golf. I remember great memories as a kid playing golf with my dad. And I remember we were at Fair Park in Little Rock, which, park gravel in some places. It was just a really poor course, And I remember as a kid, my dad let me knock a putt, and it was probably a 25 footer. And I was maybe 12, and it went right in. And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, well, isn't that what it's supposed to do? I didn't know I'd done anything that great, I didn't know the relativity of it, but I remembered some fantastic memories from that. And so on one hand, you have, to be frank about it, a business. And I mean, you've got 8 golf courses, 150 holes, I guess, 160 holes that y'all manage and take care of. And they sit there like unused inventory all the time, or you're overwhelmed, one of the two. How do you manage that? What do you do?
We do a good job. Mike's great at this, so I'm giving kudos to Mike. We have to check our tee sheets daily for supply and demand. I mean, we move and close courses when they're not needed, especially during the winter months is obviously where we get slow. The summer months, we haven't been able to do much of anything but keep going. I mean, our rounds, we did, 243,000 rounds last year, which is up from, 18, 19. We just saw an explosion from 20 and 21. So it keeps us busy. It keeps us hopping. Like Mike said about the shortness in some of our employees, the maintenance crews feels it the most. They're trying to keep these courses going 7 days a week. No matter if we're open or not, they're out there. They have to mow the greens. They have to mow the fairways. They have to get the course ready every day. And they've been shorthanded through this COVID impact with people staying at home, not working, collecting, getting paid to stay at home a little bit too. So it's hard to get them back working again, and we're slowly becoming. So and that's been our biggest challenge, trying to keep staff. And now I'm learning our biggest challenge is trying to get equipment, merchandise, anything else, because the supply chain is just way slowed down. So
me and Randy have been working on that, trying to get paid for sitting at home thing, and it has not worked out. I don't know what. Apparently, we're not connected or something. Not something going on here. Well, Matt, tell me what you work on and what your struggles are. What do you do?
As far as struggles, we as a group, the three of us, I think we've got a kind of a great teamwork going. Mike's on the outside at the courses. I'm on the inside handling the phones. I wouldn't say there's really any struggles. We've done it long enough. The courses are in great shape, as Tom has stated, and the feedback we get from the people that come and play, they're, really, no complaints on our end. Struggle-wise, sometimes you get maybe a member that might be a little bit salty for whatever reason. That's few and far between. We handle that. We try to make it right. We treat everybody with respect. And we continue what we do. It's still just golf. It's an enjoyable thing. And when you enjoy it every day, the people you work with, the people you deal with, and it's more than just us three. Our department with what we have in tee times, and when we talk to the supers or the workers outside, I like to know everybody. When we're out and we're doing things as a POA, we know more than just golf. You have people from Public Works or whatever. And when we were at the POA, we knew all the people in the accounting department, and you say good morning. It's just, for me, it's easy. And, looking at your backdrop, Dennis, living on a lake, how could it be anything different than the golf courses we have? And when we have friends and family that come in and they think, boy, you moved to Arkansas, and they're thinking, really? It's kind of a flyover state. Yet when they come and visit us from Little Rock, drive down Highway 5, see nice homes, some burnout stuff, and they come through the gates and they go, whoa. And then you take them on a tour, and you take them to the Outlook or whatever that thing is off of Herondia, and you say, this is where we live. And they go, really? Wow. And we've got friends all over, like I say, from Ohio, New York, California, Seattle, Atlanta. They've all been here, and they all want to come back as fast as they can. So that's how I look.
Well, and obviously it's clear all three of y'all really get along together. And I love the idea because I can see you almost look like the fun committee, because when the POA, everybody's like, oh, we got to work on these numbers and we got to work on this rules and we got to, hey, let's go play golf. Cool. Oh, yeah. What, another drink? Come on, let's go. Yeah. No, but the reason I chuckle and see that is because what our watchers and listeners don't know is Mike was at his house and was having some technical difficulties. Next thing you know, Matt says, come on over. And it's literally like he walked from one screen to the other. And now we have Mike and Matt both in the same screen. I'm like, well, okay, how did this happen? How did two guys from where? How did you get here?
Yeah. And if I could kind of, another thing about us three is it's important that we take care of business every day, you know, and we understand what we do here. And we're in touch every day to make it the best it can be. We look at the numbers. We discuss numbers. We discuss what we should charge, what we, you know, and all of that. Not really it comes down to us, but we bounce it off of each other. And we've had our knockdown and dragouts, have we not, guys? We've gone round and round, but at the end of the day, which is a term I use a lot, we remain friends, we remain passionate, and we love the village and we love golf and just our time here. It's been
and it's all for the better good. I mean, you disagree all you want as long as we're doing the best thing for the village, right?
Correct. That is correct. 100%.
So, Mike, how did you get to the village?
You know, I was working in Dallas back in late 80s. Guy I worked for moved to Pleasant Valley in Little Rock. So he moved there. I was with him for about 5 years there. I worked in Jonesboro and West Memphis, and then things just kind of went south. And then all of a sudden I ended up on Tom's doorstep at Hot Springs Village and started working at the Imani. Worked there for about 4 or 5 years. Got offered the job of a lifetime in San Antonio, Texas, which lasted 9 months till the company sold. And then came back here on the doorstep again and just kind of worked out for the last 10 or 11 years.
So Tom's the last resort is what I heard. That's what I'm hearing.
He owes me from a junior golf match years ago that we bring up a lot.
Well, let's hear that story. Let's hear the junior.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's a story.
You open the door. I'm going to push it open.
Randy, there's you know how there's always two sides to every story too, especially about the golf game. You know.
Yeah, of course.
The ironic part about all this is Mike and I both grew up outside Rochester, New York. He was closer than I was, but Mike's about 1 year older than I am, and we played junior golf together when we were 15, 16 years old and played in some big tournaments and made the state semis and things. Well, we ran into each other back in our teenage days. I didn't see Mike again for 25 years, Mike, and we ended up here in Hot Springs Village. So it was a roundabout way. We ended up back here after playing junior golf against each other back up in New York. It's a small world. It really is. It worked out really well.
That's an incredible coincidence.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I want to dive into some other personal stories. We'll come back around that in just a minute. But let's go from cradle to grave, as it were. If I wanted to play golf in the village and I wanted my kids to get started, Matt, where would I do? What would I do?
You would contact Mike Socha.
So then,
okay. How do you spell that name?
Yeah. So then we would get you involved with the Las Niñas group, our junior group here in the village, which is a great program. It's a 7-week program throughout the summer. They have lessons on Wednesdays. They play golf on Thursdays. They have a year-end tournament at the end of July.
So it's basically a summer program for kids, and it could be. So if the kids come and visit grandma and grandpa and they want to learn golf, and grandma and grandpa say, hey, we'd love for you to learn the golf. This is the plan. And it's what days again?
It's in June and July, Wednesdays and Thursdays. But what happens once you register for the program, the golf department through Tom and previous directors of golf, John Paul, we give them a membership card that gives them a reduced golf rate the whole year, that whole calendar year. So they play for basically $5 instead of member rates, which is a great way to play with your grandson, granddaughter. And we're looking at expanding that to younger kids. That program starts at 8. We're looking at really adding a 4 to 7-year-olds after going through some American coaching models. And they're saying get those kids involved on the golf course. So we're actually right now exploring ways to get that going too during the same time.
Wow. So, and then that wraps up what, July, you said they had a tournament?
Yep, they have their year-end tournament in July and a year-end picnic. And if you ever drive by the Balboa Pavilion last Thursday in July, you'll see probably 350 kids, parents out there for a cookout, passing out awards, giving out trophies. It's just a great experience if you've never seen.
How long?
I drove by Magellan. Oh, gee, it's been 4 or 5 years ago. And they were having the Los Niños program one morning. And I was like, why are all these cars? What is holy cow. How many kids are out here?
You know, they have upwards 280 to 300 kids. You know, there'll be about 125 at any one day. Be about 100 show up for the clinics. I mean, it's just it takes a lot of volunteers. The junior committee's been doing it for over 25 years. They offer scholarships to the seniors that graduate that are 18. It's just a great program. The scholarship's a 4-year program that they're guaranteed $500 a year for 4 years for staying in college. So,
and the ages for this program is 8 to
18. They let you go to 18, but then we're looking at expanding that to 4 to 7-year-olds. Right now, we're actually trying to put a little thing together to do it on Saturday afternoons and get those younger kids who really don't have the ability to give it the older kids, but they still want to play golf. And we still have a lot of interest with our grandparents and parents here in the village to get their kids involved in golf.
And the cost of this program is?
The cost, it's on the internet. I want to say it's $40 a year. It's way cheap, and they do an outstanding job going to get volunteers and sponsors to help sponsor the program for the whole year.
And is there a limit? Is there a cap?
Nope.
To how many kids?
No, we've never known. We're trying to get to 500.
That's awesome.
How many volunteers does it take to run a program like this, Tom?
A bunch.
They have quite a few, and I just want to update. They're changing it a little bit this year. They're going to go to Tuesdays for their lesson day instead of Wednesdays, and still play on Thursdays at Coronado. So I just wanted to update that. They had a little change. They have volunteers on their teaching day of probably 40 to 45, and then they have on Thursdays, they have an adult with every group that goes out on the golf course. So it takes quite a few volunteers. And Jack Berry, who's really the leader and has been the leader of this for years, and does a great job. Here from the village.
Well, if somebody wanted to volunteer to be a volunteer for this, would just contact the golf department, Matt?
Yes, that'd be fine.
Okay,
Matt, is there a web page or that talks about this program?
There is. Yeah. I think how I look for it is I just Google HSV Junior Golf.
Yeah, and we'll link that. We'll have a link. So if you're listening or watching this, just go to hotspringsvillageinsideout.com to this episode, and we'll have links. We'll have links.
All the contacts are on explorethevillage.com too for junior golf.
Yeah, it sounds like a whole lot of fun. Now, Tom, I assume that most of the golfers that are and Matt, help me here. Give me a profile. Who is your average golfer? And I know, okay, give me 3 profiles. Who's your average golfers?
Feel free.
we have kind of different days of the week golfers. How's that? We have people that still work that are here on the weekends more. We have our residents who play pretty much Monday through Sunday. You know, a lot of them will play 5 rounds a week, but we have younger professionals up until our super seniors, which is great. They're 80 and above, and we have quite a few of them. And we have more single-digit 80-year-olds here in the village, which means they're good players than probably anywhere in the country. So the older golfers do a really good job in the village and play really well. And if you ever watch the Village Voice, many of them shoot their age quite often. So that's a hard goal to reach for a lot of us, but we have a lot of them here that shoot their age quite often.
I have to live to 96 to shoot my age.
Really? Well, you know, and Tom, you said a moment ago that, you know, Mike was just a year older, but he just looks so much older. Is that what it is?
Oh,
I think so.
Hey, listen, no, I wanted to come back in because I'm trying to envision for the people who are outside, you know, and myself, I love playing golf. It's been probably 3 or 4 years now. And I play it obviously for the enjoyment. I certainly don't play it because I'm any good at all. And I can hit that ball a country mile, but getting it in that little dang hole just drives them. Anyway, so where I'm going with that is how would somebody go about learning or getting assistance. I mean, Matt, for example, I'm a 40-something year guy. Okay, I'm not quite 40, but I'm 40-something, and I want to learn to play golf. What would I do, Matt?
You would reach out to Mike or Tom or whomever gives lessons and get a lesson. It's like anything else. Practice, practice, practice. If you want to get better at your game.
Now, are there pros in the village that would give me training?
Yes. Again, you have Mike Socha and Tom Heffer. Mike gives a lot more because Tom is quite busy in the office, but still does. And we do have a couple more, do we not, guys?
Mike can handle this because Mike has started some beginners clinics I'd love him to touch on because he's done a great job with instruction here in the village.
You know, we have a couple other pros, Jerry Fitzgerald, who's retired here from Nebraska. We have a gentleman, Michael Bennett, who's here that works for us on one of the maintenance crews that's trying to get back in the PGA of America program. In the next couple of weeks, we send out these e-blasts, and you'll see what we call beginners clinics, and we'll have them at all 8 golf courses. The reason we have them at all 8 golf courses, we try to show people how to get to all 8 golf courses. For any ladies that are looking to play, there's a group here in Hot Springs Village called the Real Housewives of Hot Springs Village. And they do a clinic every Sunday at 1:00. And Dorothy Dean runs that. And, you know, we've built them up from 7 players in November to last week we had 19 players in the rain at Magellan. So they will show up every Sunday at 1:00. It's on their schedule. But, there's a lot of ways to go, and we get you with groups that are comparable to your personalities. And that's what all the golf shop managers are great at. We'll introduce ourselves. We'll get to know you. You live around a golf course. And then through the way we interact with you, we get you a great game that you're going to enjoy the rest of your time here at Hot Springs Village and do something.
Amazing. I was actually just thinking, I pulled up at the gates the other day, and there was a big van in front of me. And it said HSV, little bitty letters, wallpaper, stripper. What? And then I heard on the radio the other day, the HSV Happy Hookers, which is the quilting company. Yeah. Everybody's got a sense of humor. Everybody's got a sense of humor. I like that. So let's say that I'm learning how to play. I'm developing my skills. I mean, I really, as much as I know about the village, so I'll go to, I'll be at Isabella. Okay. I walk in the bathroom at Isabella, and there'll be men's MGAs lined up on the wall. What is the men's group, I guess? And how do you do that? And what do they do?
Well, we have quite a few events or leagues, as we call them. We have the MGA 18-hole league, which plays on Monday and Tuesday, and they split up their guys by ability. So the little higher handicaps play on Monday together, and the lower handicaps play on Tuesday. Then we go right into Wednesday, and we have 2 ladies leagues, the Duffers, one of them, that play at Coronado every week, and the Socha League, which kind of branched out from our WGA 18, and they take golf a little less serious than our WGA 18 that plays on Thursday, that are the better female golfers in the village and play by the rules and have fun doing that. And then on Friday I call the biggest and fun leagues, and we have the WGA 9-hole ladies and the MGA 9-hole men. And the men are our biggest league in the village, the 9-hole men. And I don't know what the average age is, but I got to say it's over 70, 75. And they play every Friday, regardless of the weather. And it's our biggest league, and they have a ball. We also, on Sundays, we have a couples league. So every day of the week except Saturday, there's a league playing in Hot Springs Village during the nice weather, April through October. So
okay, well,
there's many opportunities to play.
This interview has been helpful for me so far because I did not know that. I had no idea. And when you said social, I thought you said social league, like there's a whole social. No, social. I got it. And guys, because I have a little perspective here. I've got a buddy, Jeff Atkins, who's been on the show with us. He couldn't wait to volunteer to go work at the PGA event at the Alotion Club. Okay. And I'm like, you're paying them for you to volunteer to get a t-shirt to work. But apparently the Alotion Club, owned by the Stevens, of course, is a pretty nice place, right?
Very nice.
Would that be in the top 1% of the PGA nationwide ish?
It's rated in the top 20 in the world.
Really?
So, yes.
Okay. So where
let me take that back. Top 20 in the United States for sure.
Okay.
Maybe top 30 in the world.
Well, where does the village rate? I don't have a clue. I mean, Matt, what?
Well, about 21st in the world, I would think.
21st and a half, maybe.
Exactly. We're right there.
There's a big difference between the Aloha, which is a private club with much larger budgets and pretty much unlimited with the Stevens Group. So private clubs get ranked quite a bit higher than our resort, semi-private, public areas. So there's a lot more public and semi-private golf courses in the country than there are private courses. But the private courses are the ones that get ranked because they have a lot more endless supply of money to keep their golf courses and their clubhouses to a very high level.
And a whole lot less use, I suspect, too, right?
Yes.
Well, and Matt, we touched on this earlier in another discussion. So can anybody play in the village? Can I just anybody? Yes. Okay.
Anybody can play.
But it's a members only place. So tell me how that works.
Well, basically, yes, it is members only. And with the golf department and the golf courses we have, you just have to be allowed in the gates by us. So what people would do is they would call ahead via the pro shop, tee times, or whatever, set a time. We would email them access to come in to play golf. So we are still gated. We still control that. We email the gates every single day in regards to outside play. So that is basically, I think we discussed that in the past. We were kind of like, are we on lockdown? Is it just us? It is not. We allow outside play, and it's good for us.
And I know this is a very loaded question. I know it is a really loaded question. What does it cost?
Anywhere from during prime time, which is basically April through October, $39 to $80.
Okay, now is that member or non-members or what?
That is for non-members. That is strictly guests. And we have a lot of, as we talk all the time, we have a lot of different fees. We have accompanied member guest fees. We have state weeks. We have family fees. We have different tiers, the tier 1 in the morning prime and then tier 2 in the afternoons. But it's something that we work with and we've talked about, and we're very competitive. We're very competitive.
When you said that number, up to $80, I'm thinking, man, some of the nicer courses across the country for public, $80 is, pretty moderate. That's not the highest I've ever heard. So if we can, because I don't think I may never have this opportunity again. And thank you each for joining us. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Tom. Let's go through them real quick. Tom, your spin on DeSoto. Give me your handicapper's profile of it.
Of the DeSoto golf course?
Yeah.
Yes, obviously that's the first one built in Hot Springs Village. It's got the feel of the old school golf course, tree lined, little bit narrower fairways, not overly long in yardage, great greens, great vistas, but definitely an old school golf course built in the 70s compared to our newer courses like Granada and Isabella, which have these fairways that you can land airplanes on compared to DeSoto, which are very, very narrow. But what a fun golf course DeSoto has been. And with the new Bermuda greens that we put in there a few years back, it's a great facility to have fun without beating yourself up on difficulty, because we can get much more difficult in the village than DeSoto, but it's one of the favorites out there.
Yeah. And, we had the privilege of talking with Tom Clark about this the other day, and he was saying that, as they built basically from west to east, that the courses did get longer and wider, from 300 to 400. And, I've been in the village 20 years, and it never really occurred to me that is the story. Okay. Who wants to take Cortez? Who wants to give me a critique of Cortez? My favorite, by the way.
Well,
I will again. Go ahead, Matt, if you like.
I would love to. I'm not really that good of a golfer. So I've seen a lot of people's backyards at Cortez, hit a lot of trees and all of that. So have at it.
Among our residents, that usually gets voted their favorite golf course too, Dennis. It's a very popular golf course for our residents that live here year round. It's the scenic one. Number 17 at Cortez is the most photographed hole in the village. If you haven't seen that one, you haven't seen anything about the village. Very, very scenic, very tree lined with water. It's a fun golf course, but it'll get you if you're not careful out there. You better hit it straight at Cortez, and there's some more target golf there. You've got to hit it to a certain area, then to the next area. It's not wide open like we said as you get more east.
Well, as we said with Tom Clark, we were talking about is that the number 8 on Cortez, where you and for those of you who don't play golf, you simply line up your ball on one of the tee boxes, and you look across a vast expanse of water. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not that far. It's not that far at all, but it will psych you out. And you'll think the number of balls I've lost. And anyway, yeah. But you're right, and it is in a beautiful scenic area. And the number 17 that you mentioned actually overlooks part of the Flatside Wilderness area. It looks way back over in the mountains and simply stunning. Yes. Stunning. This is an interesting one. This is it's not an orphan, but it's the odd bird, and that is Coronado. Tom, you knew what I was going to say before I said it, right?
Yes, I did.
It's an odd bird.
It's a very odd bird. A lot of people like our residents, won't put it in their selection for the week, but when they do once in a while, they go, wow, we should play here more often. But what makes Coronado great is it can challenge a good player and it can help a beginner feel welcome too. It's a par 62. There's no par 5s. The great thing for the beginners, there's not a bunker out there. So if you're worried about sand, there isn't one out there. It's a fun course to learn the game. It's a fun course when you're a good player. It's the hardest, in my opinion, to break par on any of the golf courses for a good player would be Coronado. Just the par 3s are wonderful and difficult. So it's all abilities can play Coronado. It's fun for all of them.
And it's called, actually, the technical term I think Cooper used was that it's an executive course.
That is correct.
And to those on the outside, typically holes are typically 3 par, 4 par, 5 par. And the 5 par are typically 400 or 500 yard monsters. They're huge holes. None of that is in Coronado. Coronado, I think, like you say, is the fantastic place to start. You're not going to end up in the sand. You're not going to get too far out of control. It's not bad. And I'll tell you, just Matt and Mike and all of you, as a very novice player, one of the concerns that I have, and I'll come to this as we get to another hole here in just a minute, but one of the concerns that I had was not that I would be a terrible golfer. My concern was that I would keep the guys behind me from playing through or whatever. And I'll tell you my story here in just a minute about that when we get to another one of my favorite golf courses. But just like at Coronado, it wasn't when I used to live in Little Rock before I moved out here, I would come out at noon or 1 o'clock on a long summer day, and I could typically get 18 holes in at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock on Coronado and play till dark or right around that time and be alone, basically. Mm-hmm. It was just gorgeous. All right, Matt, Balboa.
Wow. Another great course, Tom.
Back to you, Tom. Back to you.
Tom's the golfer. I'm telling you guys, I am not that good. I've seen a lot of backyards. I'm not straight. I love playing, but I'm just not that great. So
I'm hearing that you're popular in backyards. Like you make a lot of appearances in backyards.
I know a lot of dogs. I know a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's been great. So I get to meet the neighbors quickly.
Yeah, apparently.
Balboa, I think, is known for their greens more than anything else. They're usually very quick, very fast. The golf course, we're starting to transition, not too much yet, but it's a little more forgiving off the tee, but not too much. It's still tree lined everywhere. You usually see the only hole that you're playing is the only hole you'll see. You don't see any other holes like you would at DeSoto. But it's a fun golf course, and the ladies don't like it very much because it's kind of long for the ladies over there. So we're trying to rectify that and build some new tees as we do towards renovation. But we're collecting money with our surcharge right now to try to get some help for that golf course and fix some problems we have over there. But as well as the condition is right now, everybody goes, well, what are you going to fix? It's such a great shape right now. And the greens are always solid and fast. And it's a tricky one. It's a hard golf course. If you get the ball above the hole,
it is a hard golf course, and it's a legacy genius. I think it's beautiful. It's awesome. I may be in the minority here, but you guys apparently have, I think the clubhouse is magnificent. I think it's one of the prettiest vistas I've ever seen. 2-story clubhouse out from the one in the 18. Beautiful. And as I understand it, I'll ask Mike because apparently Matt's not talking anymore. So are you guys part of the ones that moved to the clubhouse? Are y'all working at the clubhouse now?
Let me interject because I will not let Mike talk on. Mike has not moved. Mike is still at Isabella, but Tom and I and our golf department have moved. So when you walk in through the double doors on the second floor, we're to the left. And Mike Sikora's crew did a great job of turning it from pink and shag carpeting from, I think, an old Mexican restaurant or whatever. Took out some walls, put in some drop ceiling, and yeah, exactly. Took the mariachis out or whatever and put us in. IT got our phones dialed in, got our computers. It was a one-day move from the POA admin building to Balboa. Fantastic. It's quiet. We have so much more walk-in golf customers that come in. It's been great. So we get to see, I at least get to see a lot of faces that I haven't seen since I worked at Magellan behind the counter. The Discovery Center, which was located downtown and then on the east end, is now part of, they took half of the pro shop or the golf shop downstairs. And so that's where they work from. It's great. It's just a good use of space. They've got the restaurant with the new vendors in that has been updated with tables and some carpeting. They haven't, since COVID, they really haven't gotten started serving upstairs, but they still do at the lounge. And that's called the Turn at Balboa. So yeah, a lot of good things, and we're loving life. It's nice, and to walk in and look down, as Tom and I, and we all do, look down number 10 fairway, or on the putting green or whatever. It's fantastic.
The struggle is real. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And we hear that quite often from. We hear.
So you're telling me it sucks to be Mike, is what I'm hearing. So what I'm looking at also is that give me an update, because you touched on it, and I know it's associated, it's tangential, but tell me about the Discovery Center. What exactly does that do, and what are they doing?
Well, what they do is they handle people that are looking to buy in the village. So what we do in the Discovery Center is we set up a 2-night stay at a residence or whatever, and either then get the golf dialed in, or if they don't golf, pickleball, whatever. And they're a part of a realtor group also, that they give the leads to a realtor and they meet up and they tour the village. And it's another thing that I think COVID has helped with. It's exploded as far as numbers. I am not over the Discovery Center, so I don't know the specific numbers. I just know that it has grown. And then also what I've seen is that has, maybe if it didn't lead into buying homes, which it has led into them coming back on a golf stay and play package with their buddies, with other spouses or whatever. Our repeat and referral that we have seen in the 5 years that we've been doing this for, whatever it's impressive. You get people here once, they want to come back. Yeah. And then they'll have offshoots of their own groups. So say if we have a group of 20 from Dallas, one of those guys will bring his golf group of 16 or whatever. It just grows exponentially. And the way they are treated and what we hear, because I speak to every single one of them, they just love the village, the laid back pace, all of the golf department, just the village as a whole. It's easy. That's why you asked earlier, you can't but love it. It's just, we sell fun.
It's a fun job. Right. Well, yeah. And as opposed to those other people at the POA pushing numbers.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you give us some idea of outside participation of what that looks like, compared to villagers playing?
It's like I told you earlier, we did about 240,000 rounds last year. And out of that 240,000, there was about 38,000 outside play. So you do the math, about 200,000 residents that play here, or rounds, and about the rest of it in visitor play.
And when things are like this, Tom, marketing, who needs marketing? You're struggling to keep up.
Paul Sage doesn't agree. He says they still need marketing. He told us that.
Paul has helped with the stay and play. He's helped market that more and more. And Kevin just got back. Kevin Sexton, who works also with Paul and the Discovery Center, just got back from Dallas, the Dallas Golf Show, and started to get some leads for our stay and play packages. Also, it's real quickly. We were 81% above 2020 last year in revenue just for stay and play packages. So
81%.
Well, congrats.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and
Thanks,
Tom,
Matt.
and because we're about done, if we can, punts. I call it the monster. Oh my Lord. I like playing at punts, but man, you come off the first 9 and you're like, I don't know. Are we going to make it to I don't know. This is a lot of doing. Tell me your thoughts on punts.
It's one of my top 2. It's one of my top 2 favorites that I've ever played in the Village. It's really a shot maker's dream. You've got to hit shots in the right places all day long. It's a beautiful golf course. The greens are lovely. Yeah. You talk to our lowest handicap players, they put ponds up there above every other golf course in the Village. It's a wonderful place to play. It is hard. If you get it going like Matt does into the houses and the trees, it gets very hard. Wouldn't you agree, Mike?
Several thousand yards on that first 500 hole. Right?
Yeah. That first hole is probably the hardest starting hole in the Village right there. Right off the bat, you get hit with one of the hardest par 4s in the Village. So you've got to get on your game early there.
Well, you said you had to place your shots well. Apparently, that's what I'm doing wrong. Who knew? Who knew? It was that simple, right?
That's right.
We move over, and I'll tell you what. Here's going to be one of my absolute favorites, and that is Magellan. Oh my Lord! And for those of you who don't know, about Lake Balboa, the largest lake in the Village, around 1,000 acres, actually flows out of the back. There's a beautiful spillway there that people have actually kayaked before or whitewater rafted in, a big deal. It goes down and goes into the number 10 of Magellan and turns. And this is not an exaggeration. And it's to your credit, each of you. I tee off at number 10, which is right by the clubhouse. I walk down alongside number 10 and I look down, and here's the creek that is the overflow from Lake Balboa. And there's a 14-inch largemouth bass looking up through the 2-foot deep water at me going, what are you looking at? It's like being in a national park. It's gorgeous. It's simply gorous.
And he's got one of Matt's golf balls in his mouth.
Exactly. The fish has a bruise on his forehead where Matt has been there.
So true. So true.
But tell me what it's like, in your opinion, Tom, to play Magellan.
I'll let Mike handle that one. He hasn't spoke up lately, so we'll let Mike handle that one.
Magellan's a great golf course to play. We have a lot of fun out there. You got a lot of scenic views. You got to hit a lot of little golf shots. You got to place your ball well. But it's a great risk reward golf course. If you feel like getting aggressive, you can make some low scores. But if you hit the wrong shot, you can make some high numbers.
You're talking about backyard. You're talking about Matt again, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So as we move along, and now, and Mike, this is obviously probably your best question too, but Isabella, let's talk about another odd bird. I mean, I had never, till I came to the Village, I'd never heard of a 27 hole. Tell me about it.
Oh, it's 18, the original 18 were built, Nina Pinta, and they were numbered 1 through 18. Then we came back and added Santa Maria a few years later. Santa Maria's got the best closing hole on number 9 in the Village. So you go to Ponce with the best starting hole, Santa Maria, number 9, by far the best finishing hole in the Village.
And probably what outside people don't know is that, not all 27 may be open at the same time. You may have number 1 and number 3 open, and number 2 and number 3. And how does that work?
Yeah, due to the rotations, we try to get you to finish at the golf shop. So we'll start a lot on Pinta and have you end up on Santa Maria. And then during the afternoons, we'll start a lot on Nina and have you finish on Pinta. We try to avoid the Santa Maria to Nina rotation because for some reason, once you get out there and play those 18 holes, it's real easy to fly over to Pinta and play those other 9. And it's amazing. We don't see the revenue in that sometimes.
What happens there? That's so not like this ever applies to me. But when that little marshal comes by and he's checking your stubs, is he looking for Matt or you? Is that what is he looking for me?
He found Matt in the trees back on the other hole.
True. Yeah, next to the fish, right?
No,
what hole is it? What hole is it on Isabella? And we won't mention the guy's name. Y'all probably know him. I don't. Where he has taken golf balls, driven spikes through them, and put them in his yard just to fool Matt.
Yeah. Well, I made him move.
Did you? Okay, good. Because he was kind of a jerk.
Yeah, he is no longer there. That was 6 Pinta, right?
Yeah.
6 Pinta.
Yeah. I didn't. Yeah, Randy, you'd hit your ball, and you walk
That's
around
a good
the corner.
bit. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
kind of a cruel sense of humor, but you know, for Matt.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, and Tom, final one, tell me about Granada.
Well, tough to beat Granada. Granada is the first course everybody has to play when they're coming into the village. It was rated high in the state when it first opened in 2004. I don't know if there's any better vistas in Hot Springs Village. The golf holes they keep getting better the more you play each one, and the finish is incredible with the waterfall, the whole length of the hole on number 18. It's a fun golf course. You never get tired of playing Granada. There are wider fairways at Granada and Isabella, so it is player friendly, even for Matt. You know, it gives him a little more room out there, but it's beautiful. I mean, you can stand up at the clubhouse and look down number 10 and see the mountains in the background, and it really is my favorite. It is just slightly edges out Ponce, but it's a fun place to play. Everybody enjoys it. I can't say enough about Granada.
Is it the busiest of all the courses?
No, Isabella is partially because they have 27 holes, so there's many more players out. We can accommodate more players.
Yeah, sure.
It's actually third, and it goes back and forth between Cortez and Granada. So your top tier is Isabella, then Granada and Cortez juggle back and forth. So
as we get to April and the weather stops being so schizophrenia, what improvements can players expect?
Well, I get excited, and the superintendents get very excited. Next week we start our players don't get excited. Sorry about that, but everybody else, we're getting ready for the year. So we're aerifying our greens starting next week, and what that does is they go in and punch holes in all our greens, makes them not very pretty for about 7 days. But we have to do this to get through the hot summers. We have to aerify these greens. It makes them better, makes them healthier. And it's also, to me, the first sign of spring. When we start aerifying, the grass is starting to turn green. We're getting the golf courses ready for the really nice weather coming up starting in April, May, all through the summer.
Now, that aerifying, it looks like they're just pulling plugs out of the ground. Is that it, or are they poking holes in? Which one?
Well, they're poking a hole and then pulling what they poke down. They're pulling all this extra stuff that doesn't need to be there, this organic material. You get out as much as you can, and then you're filling these holes with sand. The sand is a better base than all this organic material that built up it's terrible for the greens, especially when we get to go into the typical Arkansas summer with our high humidity and our 100-degree temperature. We need to have more airflow going through those greens, more places where water can drain through them instead of sit on top. And that just bakes them come summertime. So the supers do a tremendous job getting these greens healthy, ready to go.
So now I do see fans over some of the greens, like Magellan and places like that. That's simply to keep the air rolling across them. So does mold set up? I mean, what does it do?
Yeah, you can't. You've got to keep them dry, because if moisture builds up and the heat of the summer, it'll create lots of funguses and other things that will kill those greens. So you've got to realize our greens on 6 of our courses are a bent grass green, which is actually a northern green. So it does very well, except more in July and August. We got to keep them alive, because this is definitely not a northern climate in July and August in Arkansas. It's a little warmer in the high 90s. So you got to keep that air movement going, keep them dry so they don't, get funguses and other diseases during the summer.
It sounds like keeping everything alive is a moving target. Am I close?
Just those hot months. But that's what's so great about the village is Magellan and DeSoto have more of a southern grass on their greens. They thrive in that time of year. So to me, we made it the best of both worlds. There's not a time of the year that we don't have great greens. And we used to suffer with 8 bent grass greens in the summer. They were softer because you got to keep them cool. You got to keep them alive. Now we've got 2 Bermuda grass greens at DeSoto Magellan that are thriving that time of year, and they're great.
Wow. I'm simply trying to absorb and take all this in.
I want to hear how each of you got to the village is what I want to hear.
Let's start with
I'll start and I'll let them all finish. In 2000, I was offered a job here. I was at Pleasant Valley Country Club in Little Rock, Arkansas. I moved to Arkansas in 97. So I had 3 years under my belt in Arkansas and never heard or seen Hot Springs Village before. So I was asked to come down for an interview. And I drove through the gate and I said, this is the place I'd like to stay. And I was hired by John Paul back in 2000 as a PGA regional manager. I was in charge of 3 of the courses because we had 7 at that time, because we're just opened up Isabel that same year, with plans for an 8th course at Granada. So with only Rick Ross here, 1 golf pro, they needed another golf professional to share the duty. So at that time I was hired in 2000, and 2022, I'm still here and love every bit of it. So I came from New York to Arkansas and then to the Village, which is in Arkansas, but I feel like it's a melting pot down here. There's people from everywhere. So it's really fun place to be. My family's grown up here. It's great. Love it here.
Who's next?
So, I grew up in New York also. I went to college in Michigan through a program called Ferris State, which was the first professional golf management program at the time. Went through some co-ops down in Texas, decided I hated the up north winters, moved down to Texas, worked there. While working there, I worked for a guy that moved to Little Rock, worked in Little Rock, Jonesboro, and then played in a Pro-Am in Hot Springs Village back in like 1993. They used to have a 2-day Pro-Am, and it's the last Pro-Am I won. So, something happened to my playing ability. I don't know what happened. Work got in the way. And then, when I won that Pro-Am, we played Ponce and DeSoto, shot 71 at Ponce, 66 at DeSoto, had a great time. But it was a great place. It was fun to get to. I always wanted to come back here because this is what I love doing. I love promoting golf, playing golf, talking to people about golf, and just being around it. And where else can you do it better here than a place of 8 golf courses? And, we kind of know who we let in and let out. So that's how I got it.
And I grew up outside of Cleveland, Ohio, went to college, didn't do well, went to California, Southern California for 20 years. I got into the car business, ended up running a couple dealerships in Southern California. 08 hit. It was kind of like, what are we going to do? And my father-in-law had retired here in the Village, I think in 04. I had visited. So we moved out in 09 and started the business on the West End. That is still there. I got away from that and started marshaling for Mikey at Balboa. I played some golf, which wasn't good golf, but took a couple of years off and tried to find a game. And ended up working behind the counter, managing Magellan. Tom got promoted to director of golf and said, hey, why don't you come sell golf for me? And I said, hey, right up my alley, let's do it. And here we sit. And again, like these 2 guys, we're best of friends, and we love what we do. At least I know I do. And it's a great existence.
How often do the 3 of you guys play golf together, or do you?
Yes. And I get lessons all the time, and I'm the worst student ever, but it's a blast. Plus, we're friends with our managers and all of that. We're just kind of a tight knit, and all of our family that ever comes in and whatever, they know us all. We all get together, it couldn't be better. It's just, like Tom said, a very big melting pot, but a great place, and people are envious of where we all live.
Well, it shows, and and I applaud Tom and all of you. I mean, the culture that you guys kind of exude of the golf department, for a guy that's not a golfer but loves to watch it and loves to be on a golf course. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I applaud.
Well, it should be fun. I mean, that's the point, right? It's work, but it can be fun at the same time, right?
Agreed. 100%.
That was our tagline that we came up with, make golf fun. So that's kind of how we promote this within our team that works out there, and we try to make golf fun, make everybody have fun while they're out there.
Let me touch on one other thing that Matt, you mentioned just a sec. So if I'm a marshal, what are the benefits? What can I do? How does that work? If I'm inside the Village and I think, I may not be a golf nut, but I'd like to know how to be more involved. What can I do?
Well, basically you would go to any of the golf shops to talk to the managers to see if they need anybody. And basically if you marshal, it's a voucher program. So it's a volunteer program. And basically what you're out there for is for player safety and pace of play. That's basically it. That's it, yeah. In a nutshell.
So if you volunteer to marshal, then you get a coupon that says you get to play that month or whatever.
You actually get a voucher for 9 holes. So depending on, I think it's every 2 hours of volunteer time, you get a voucher that allows you for a 9-hole round of golf with a cart.
But obviously for the manager position or anybody who works behind the counter, those people obviously are paid, and we're always looking for those people. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Always
100%.
And we're looking for maintenance guys also. It's a, we're getting that part of the time of the year that we're starting to gear up, verification, grass starts growing, we're mowing. We're doing a lot more on the golf course than just, setting tees, cutting holes, dumping garbage and things like that.
No, and I'm thinking your competition this year is Amazon offering 18 an hour and McDonald's offering 14 an hour. And yeah, hey, listen, it's going to be hot as blue blazes, and
the working conditions aren't nearly as good though. Is what
exactly.
He's got a point. Well, I think we may have finished up part 1, Randy. Do you think?
Yeah.
Because I think there's a whole lot more we can come back to on Hot Springs Village Inside Out. I tell you what, Tom Heffer, Mike Socha, Matt, it has been a pleasure and a delight. Thanks for being with us today. We'll see you again on Hot Springs Village Inside Out.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a podcast where Hot Springs Village, Arkansas is the star. Please subscribe to the podcast. You can do that by visiting our website, hsvinsideout.com, and tell a friend.